CFSJs inside the box. The workout's designed for tight times and tight spaces. All of our workouts are designed for a space approximately 8 foot by 10 foot. We should be able to get through all of these in about 25 to 45 minutes, depending on how you pause the videos and how much time you spend at each station. Follow along with us, pay attention. We're going to give you some insight as to how these workouts are actually supposed to be completed. So if you follow along with us, you will get better. All right, so if you have access to a rower or a bike, go ahead and use those. We're looking for about 2 minutes of warm-up, but for the rest of us, we're going to do 10 in-place burpees, just simply stepping back, starting light. Use this as a hip stretch as well. Let's go ahead and jump at the top, slowly starting to build the heart rate up, just getting the blood flowing so that the muscles accommodate. And you're going to go ahead and give me 6 more on your own. To best prepare us for the demands of the day, let's start off with some simple dynamic warm-ups. Today we're going to focus on 4 main movements: the Samson stretch for hips, bootstraps for hamstrings, iron cross for torso, and twisted cross for chest. Starting off with the 10 Samson stretches, 5 each side. If possible, stop that knee from touching the ground. If absolutely necessary for stability, go ahead and drop it, pushing the hips forward, opening the chest, pushing those hands to the sky. Next, widening into a squat stance for 10 bootstraps. At the bottom of the squat, driving those elbows into the knees, keeping a hold of the toes, prying the hips up to the sky. Next, dropping onto your back for an iron cross. Keep the hamstrings active as you bring the heel up to the sky with a straight leg, reaching opposite foot to opposite hand. Realize your first couple of reps are not going to be your most mobile. Flip over to your front for 10 twisted crosses. Remember pulling that left arm in, pushing the chest away, driving the force into that shoulder for a deep pec stretch. Today's activation starts with 10 alternating prone swimmers. We're going to start off in that Superman position, holding the active Superman. Right hand stays overhead as left arm drives back behind your back. And we're going to replace each hand at the same time. Next, coming onto the knees, we're going to go 5 half kneeling press. This can be done with a light implement. And then finishing off from here, 10 half kneeling windmills. Pushing the hip out, reaching the hand down to the ground. What you'll notice here is something that feels a lot like the return position to the Turkish getup. A lot of times this is a sticking point, so let's spend a little more time here. In today's upper body development, we're doing a lot of work with the chest and the shoulders. We've got kettlebell pullovers, handstand push-ups, finished off with hollow rocks and bent rows. If you have access to a pull-up bar, we can substitute those bent rows for strict pull-ups. Let's look at what the movements are. First, we have 10 to 12 kettlebell pullovers. This is going to be with a fairly light implement, possibly with nothing at all. We're going to keep our knees bent as if we're about to initiate a sit-up, slight hollow position, meaning the shoulders are just off the floor as if we just started that sit-up position. With arms straight out, we're going to reach that kettlebell straight back. In our second exercise, we've got 5 to 6 handstand push-ups. These can be kipping or strict. preferably strict, especially if you're working at home. Now, if you don't have the skill or the strength for a handstand push-up, these can be a piked variation from the floor or a chair handstand push-up. Let's go ahead and look at the tenets of the chair handstand push-up. The idea is to not turn this into an elevated push-up, but actually keeping the hips in a pike position and the head driving down to where the top of the head, not the face, is coming in between the hands. Next, we're going into hollow rocks, 10 to 12, or a 20-second hollow hold. And lastly, we're going to finish off with 6 to 8 bent rows with each arm. Making sure that the hips are out, you're in a nice hinge position as if you are about to start a deadlift. Elbows drive up, weight comes back to ribs. Now, today's work is a 20-minute EMOM. You have 4 movements. Each one takes a minute. There's less work than you have time, so make sure that you take your time, do these movements slower than you normally would. Think of them as a skill more than a strength. All right, let's go ahead and set that timer for 20 minutes and begin. Let's talk about today's WOD Ramble on. We have a 4 round for time. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, today's WOD Ramble on is a 4 round for time, high intensity workout. It's balanced between a very high intensity cardio driven movement like a 200-meter sprint with a 100-meter suitcase carry. The idea of this is to give yourself a breathing room while keeping the core active and under load. Right after, you're going to finish off with 20 push-ups with release. Let's look at those push-ups with release. Now, if you notice, Coach Devin maintaining a plank, lowering himself down as if he was going to do a regular push-up, but making sure that he's all the way down at the bottom. What you're not seeing here is that he's not releasing his plank. The death to this movement is relaxing at the bottom and then trying to snake yourself off the ground. The hand release style of push-up adds a little bit of benefit towards speed of this movement. You're going to find that your pecs and your chest are a little less fatigued than normal, however your core is way more taxed. 3, 2, 1, go. Now, don't be that person who worms this movement. Let's go ahead and try to maintain as much as you can with the toes staying on the ground during this entirety of the movement, even when your hands are pulled up for the release. Now, the intention is to spike your heart rate on the 200 meters, let it come back down on the 100, and then trash yourself again on the 20 push-ups. You've got 4 rounds. This is an all-out. We're looking somewhere in the neighborhood of about 12 to 14 minutes. Let's go ahead and get your timer. You're going to need a count-up version. Set your playlist. And now that we're situated, getting ready for that run in 3, 2, 1, go.